Hello everybody and welcome to Omnipoke, the channel that brings you guys everything Pokemon. I'm Jack and today I'm here taking a look at the brand new Time Gazer and Space Juggler Japanese sets that were revealed just a couple of hours ago. Woke up early just to check whether they'd been revealed because it was kind of predicted they would be, and indeed they have. So I wanted to get a video out to you guys with my first impressions of these two sets, or at least the cards that have been revealed so far. Some very interesting stuff. Just before we get into it though, make sure you check out the Poketown store for your brand new Brilliant Stars codes. You can use code OMNIPOKE for 5% off your order. So, Dialga and Palkia are here. Their origin forms have been revealed. Obviously, this was a bit delayed. This was maybe because, this is pretty big information, pretty big reveals if you haven't played the games yet. So, that could be why they've been revealed slightly late. The set is out in Japan in, I think, about a month. So we're going to have a month of reveals like usual, and then they will combine with Battle Region and probably the Japanese starter decks for Lucario and Darkrai and make our Astral Radiance set in May. So yeah, very exciting stuff. As always, let's kick off with the trainers, kicking things off with Unidentified Fossil. This is basically a reprint. You play it as if it's a 60 HP colourless basic Pokemon. At any time you can just discard it. So yeah, it's essentially the same mechanic as we've had for the fossils for a little while now. Unfortunately, it's one of the weaker ones. It's a shame we didn't see them try and reinvent this mechanic to make the fossils a little bit more playable, because there's only been very flash in the pan success from these kinds of decks. So that's a shame. But yeah, fossils are back. Irida is a brand new supporter that says search your deck for a water Pokemon and an item card, reveal them and put them into your hand, then shuffle your deck. So yeah, this reminds me of a couple of cards, primarily something like Volkner. Obviously, this is getting a Pokemon instead of an energy. Volkner got an energy, an item. This gets a water Pokemon and an item. Is that better? Is that worse? It's hard to say. Obviously, it's not just going to be good in water decks, because you have the Inteleon engine, you have that kind of thing that you could pair this with. You have even being able to grab Luminion for next turn or whatever. But I think in general the effect is quite slow. We're in a format that is quite fast paced, and things like Research and Marnie are very much sort of supporters that do a lot more, that don't just get these two specific cards. They actually get, hopefully, more than just those two specific cards. So that's why I think Irida probably isn't going to be strong enough. Maybe if the format slows down, I'm pretty sure we're getting a Research reprint, but maybe if the format slows down somewhat, Irida could be playable. But I think at the moment, just raw drawing into 7 cards will often be more of a benefit than just tutoring out a couple of specific ones, especially if you're playing the Inteleon engine. Because you can then, off the back of the Research, Inteleon to pick up the pieces that you need afterwards. So yeah, I don't think it's great in that aspect. Obviously, we have Palkia coming out, and Palkia indeed is a water Pokemon, so maybe it can help in terms of trying to grab some like V Pokemon and V-Star Pokemon. So that could be interesting, but even then, I still think it's a little bit too slow. We have Ultra Ball, we have Evo Incense, we have a lot of ways to search out these V-Star Pokemon. And we also have Quick Ball on top of all of that to find the basics. So I don't think it's too strong. But, I remember not thinking Volkner was amazingly strong in the first instance and then really, really loving the card. A Pokemon is slightly different to an energy, but yeah. I think it's a little bit too weak, unfortunately. Great art, though, with the galactic headquarters in the background from the game. Adaman is also the other supporter. This was obviously Irida is the leader of the Pearl clan. Adaman is the leader of the Diamond clan. Discard 2 metal energy cards from your hand. If you do, search your deck for up to 2 cards and put them in your hand, then shuffle your deck. So, discarding 2 metal energy is a very specific cost, especially when we have no way to tutor energy right now. We have like energy search, but that's really slow, so that's not ideal. We have things like Training Court to help get them back into play, and to be honest, you want metal energy in the discard pile to be able to metal source them on. Excuse me. And then searching your deck for 2 cards is a very strong effect. So I actually think this could be could see a little bit of play, to be honest. We have things. We have things like Luminion to tutor this out quickly. We have, like I say, I think we have a decent amount of ways to get Metal Energy into the hand. I don't think it'll be the backbone of like an engine, just because like off of the back of a Roxanna ever, it's definitely going to be a lot worse. And I think realistically, it probably will end up still being paired with some of the classic supporters like Research and Marnie. But being able to like tutor for this, being able to Luminion for this to search for any 2 cards is very powerful, especially when you're also then getting Metal, discard synergy to be able to Metal Saucer onto your Pokemon as well. So yeah, I actually think this card could be pretty good, to be honest. I don't think it's going to be the backbone of an engine. I think it's too conditional to be that. But as a sort of a one-of, a tech support or a tech include, it could be pretty nice. I'm interested to try this one out, especially given that Dialga looks like a lot of fun. But we'll get to that shortly. First off, we have some great arts to look at. Firstly, this round Rowlet looks brilliant. Kawaii, as always, bringing fantastic art. You love to see it. And similarly, honestly, this Dartrix also looks really nice. So yeah, very nice arts there. We've got Cyndaquil, again, also a beautiful art. None of these cards really do anything for what it's worth. But they have art that is honestly out of this world. Quilava. And then finally, Oshawott, looking adorable, and Dewott with a little Dynamo in the background, just having a little nap. All 6 of those honestly look brilliant. But yeah, onto Origen Palkia V, a Water V Pokemon, 220 HP, with a couple of attacks. Domain Ruler is the first for a Water Energy that says search your deck for a Stadium card, reveal it and put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. Not the most powerful of effects, to be honest, but I guess better than nothing. I'm kind of glad they've kept in theme with Dialga and, well, with Palkia at least, being able to, well, they kind of have with Dialga as well. Palkia being able to grab stadiums, kind of leaning into that spatial aspect of Palkia's sort of existence is pretty cool. But yeah, not an overly strong attack. And then Hydro Break for 3 energy does 200 damage, and this Pokemon can't attack during your next turn. Honestly, 200 for 3 isn't that bad. It's kind of hard to get waters on, I think. We have like Melanie, but you do have to attach this over a couple of turns, outside of like weird E-switch plays or whatever. So it's not the strongest attack, but at least it's, you know, a respectable amount of damage for 3 energy if you can't find the V-Star. Speaking of which, the V-Star, Origen Palkia V-Star has 280 HP. I realise my camera's covering it up, unfortunately. But yeah, it has 280 HP. And obviously an attack and a V-Star power. The attack for 2 water is Spatial Swell, 60 plus 20 for each benched Pokemon. So this is essentially Suicune's attack, or Entei's attack, or Raiku's attack, but with a plus 50 base. That is really relevant, I think. At the moment, Suicune can definitely reach into one-hit KOs with Choice Belt, but you do have to have like basically a full board, and they have to have 3 on board, because that takes you up to 160, 180 with your active, 210 with the Choice Belt. Now they need one Pokemon on board for you to reach 210. 210 on. Is that right? 10 plus 20. No, it's 20 plus 20. Sorry, it's 40 more damage. 40 base more damage. So yeah, now they need only 1 Pokemon on the bench if you have a full bench to one-shot a V Pokemon, which is amazing. But also, it then means reaching into V-Star numbers and even V-Max numbers isn't actually anywhere near as hard. You maybe don't even have to pair this with Ludicolo anymore to be able to reach some of these V-Stars and V-Maxes. Obviously, Spatial it's still not quite doing enough. You do base 260 for a full bench of both. So you will probably still have to pair it with things like Inteleon to reach over the line. But base 260 for 2 energy, if they've got a full bench, is crazy. And base 180, if they haven't got a full bench, if they've just got 1 bench, is also very strong. Because it means with a Choice Belt, you're doing 210. Realistically, that's KOing a lot of V Pokemon. And that's only if they have 1 benched Pokemon. Realistically, they probably have 2, because they probably have a spare attacker plus, you know, a Crobat or a Luminion or some Sobbles. So realistically, it's going to be very easy for Origen Palkia to KO basic V Pokemon. Can be powered up in a turn as well. We have Melanie, so you can just attach Melanie and get going with this. Unfortunately, we do lose the colourless attack cost, which means we can't really pair this with Capture Energy like you can Suicune, but I think the trade-off for 40 damage is definitely worth it. We also have the V-Star Power Star Portal, which helps in accelerating energy, because this is once during your turn. Attach, you may use this ability, attach up to 3 water energy from your discard pile to your water Pokemon in any way you like. So you can use lots of Ultra Balls, lots of Quick Balls, lots of Capacious Buckets to get the waters out, to then discard them all, to get your board set up, and then at the end of your turn, just go for a Star Portal, and really basically set up multiple Palkias for the rest of the game. You might not even need to run Melanie in like super high counts. It might just be like a 1 or 2 of, just to add some supplementary attachments in the late game, because you can just manually attach to your Palkias basically from as soon as you've used the Star Portal attack, which is very strong, to be honest. So yeah, it may not even need to rely on the Melanie engine, which means you can play Research, Marnie, all of those good things that are obviously stronger in terms of draw power. Also means you're able to boss a lot more than the Suicune deck is. The Suicune deck typically only plays a couple of boss because they do have to keep charging up with Melanie. You don't need to be Melanie anywhere near as much because you get to Star Portal and set up multiple attackers. So yeah, looks to be very, very strong. I basically think it's, for all intents and purposes, a tankier but stronger Suicune. Still weak to Lightning, but Lightning isn't too popular right now, and even against Lightning, to be honest, you still tank a hit against the most popular Lightning Pokemon, which is Jolteon right now. And realistically, with them only having 300 HP, you can probably, in some instances, actually catch up and KO them. So yeah, obviously this can't use Ludicolo, so you're losing out on that aspect of the Suicune Ludicolo deck, but I think the tankiness and the plus 40 damage is definitely worth it for the longevity of the game. It only gives up 2 prizes as well, so it's basically just like Suicune's big brother. No access to Ludicolo, no access to Capture Energy, but higher base power and no real reliance on Melanie, I think, are 2 very, very exciting things. So yeah, really excited to give Palkia a try. We have our first Hisuian Typhlosion that isn't a V Pokemon. It's a stage 2 evolved from Quilava and has the Spectral Ball ability. Once during your turn, you may discard a Psychic Energy from your hand. If you do, your opponent's active Pokemon is now Burn and Confused. So basically, it's a plus 20 damage and plus Confusion. And obviously, if they stick around, it could be plus 40, plus 60 with the Burn. But realistically, I see this as basically just a plus 20 damage. Discard a Psychic Energy from your hand. You do 20. Your attack do 20 more damage this turn. Don't think that's strong enough on a stage 2, to be honest. We have no real Psychic discard synergy from what I can remember, and obviously this is a stage 2, so it's a bit awkward to get into play, so I don't think this is strong enough, unfortunately. But again, this art is absolutely gorgeous, so really appreciate that. Shadowbind is the attack, obviously synergizing the Spectral Ball because your opponent's defending Pokemon cannot retreat if they've been shadow bound. The thing is, we have a lot of switching outs. We have Rope in fairly high counts at the moment. We have Switch, we have Air Balloons, we have Inteleons and stuff to find all of these cards. So I don't think Hisuian Typhlosion is quite strong enough, unfortunately. Cranidos, as I mentioned, evolves from Unidentified Fossil. Again, honestly, all of the art in this set is just brilliant. But yeah, pretty basic attacks, to be honest. And then Rampardos has 170, brilliant art, and it does Flying Head for 1 for 60. And Jurassic Hammer, 2 for 240. If your opponent has 3 or less cards in their hand, this attack does nothing. Honestly, that's not that bad of a condition, to be honest, because having a low hand size actually isn't it's not that hard to achieve sometimes. But sometimes they just won't be able to play around this, and you'll just be doing 240 for 2 every turn. Honestly, 170 HP is also pretty strong in terms of HP. Even for a stage 2, but realistically it's a stage 2. It has a conditional effect, and the only acceleration we have for this is B and the Gritty Pickaxe, or Gutsy Pickaxe, can't remember what it's called. And neither of those are super reliable, especially in a deck where you also need to be playing this like Unidentified Fossil engine, which means you have to get multiple fossils down, which means you have to find trainers rather than Pokemon. So things like Quick Ball don't work because it's only a Pokemon when it's in play. So realistically, this is a pretty cool attacker, but because of the fact that it's a fossil, and we don't have amazing energy acceleration, because both of those cards kind of don't really synergize well with having extra fossils and stuff in your deck because you can't really tutor them out, means that I don't think this is going to be strong enough, unfortunately. But yeah, it's a lot of damage for 2 energy. They really are trying to push these stage 2s a little bit. Hisuian Decidueye is a fighting stage 2 with a couple of attacks, 160 HP. The first attack is Cutting Talon for free. It does 30 damage times the number of damage counters on the opponent's active Pokemon. Realistically, this can rack up quite quickly. You basically have to see this as like a 40 times multiplier, right? So to be able to do 280, they need to have 7 damage counters on them already, because for every damage counter you do 30 damage. So if you read this as basically 40 times, you can work out how many damage counters you need to do to break specific numbers. 7 for 280, 8 for 360. Not 360, 320. How do you get 7 or 8 damage counters onto your opponent's Pokemon? Inteleon Decidueye, that kind of stuff. This could also be sort of the clean up for something like Sableye and stuff, I guess. The fact this costs no energy is honestly quite nice. It's a stage 2, which is really awkward. But the fact that you get to play this without having to play any energy is actually really, really interesting. To the point where it might make it a little bit splashable here and there. Obviously, again, it's a stage 2. I'm not going mad about this. But in some of these one prize decks that don't really do much in the early turns and then look to do a lot with things like Sableye and stuff, this is potentially kind of similar. I think it's obviously going to be worse because Sableye is just a basic Pokemon and you can just get it up out of nowhere, whereas Hisuian Decidueye, you probably need 2 Rowlets down, so they can kind of see it coming. But just it being free naturally adds an element of interest to the card. So yeah, I can't really see it being strong enough though. And then Direct Arrow is just an 80 damage snipe. Not the strongest right now. We have a lot of there's a lot of the one prize decks that are playing Manaphy, so you can't even expect this to be sort of feasting against those. And realistically, against other Pokemon, against like 2 prizes and 3 prizes, Direct Arrow, well, 3 for 80 is just not enough damage. So yeah, the only interesting part about the card, I think, realistically, is the fact that this first attack is free, and I don't think that's strong enough. I can't really see where it fits, but like I say, it does add an extra layer of interest to the card for sure. Finally, we have Hisuian Samurott for the Hisuian starters. 270 HP Dark type with the Tricky Stance ability. Once during your turn, you may discard a card from your hand. If you do, draw 3 cards. This is essentially similar to the what was it? It was a Swampert released back in Lost Thunder, I want to say. They saw very flash in the pan play. It was at a time where the format was a lot slower. You actually could play Stage 2 decks. And even then, it was only played in a couple of them. Realistically, it was also played a little... Actually, it wasn't Lost Thunder. It was Celestial Storm. So, yeah, before I get corrected in the comments, I think it was Celestial Storm, not Lost Thunder. Yeah, it was in a format where you could play Stage 2 Pokemon a lot more readily. The format was a lot slower. And also, you had Meganium to cheat them out as well. So, realistically, we're in a format where it's a lot harder to get this out. Tricky Stance is obviously a great ability. Discard Draw 3 is better than Discard, like Trade and stuff, and Cincino's Make Do. So, obviously, that's really good. But I think the payoff for it being a Stage 2 just isn't there. It's worth paying... Well, I think it's easier to get out the Stage 1 version in Cincino. You get 1 less card, but it's all levelable, searchable. You have a great basic Pokemon. That's kind of the comparison here, right? You're doing more per card with Hisuian Samurott, but realistically it's a lot easier to get Cincinos out. And maybe even easier to get Lipards out, even though they can't be level balled, because they're just Stage 1s instead of Stage 2s. So yeah, I think it's a little bit too weak, unfortunately. Again, brilliant art though. And then we have Dark Prison as its attack for 60 damage, and it does 20 more for each. Energy attached to all of your Pokemon. So this is basically base 120. That's a decent amount of damage. We have Dark Patch. We have... what else we have? Galerion Moltres is what I'm thinking of, to essentially build up a lot of energy on the board quite quickly. Again, it's a stage 2, so you can't really rely on it being a super solid attacker. But maybe this is like the backbone for the Darkrai engine deck. You discard Dark Energy with Tricky Stance. You can then attach them back with Dark Patch and Moltres, and you've got a one prize attacker for the matchups where you need a one prize attacker, but you've also got a decent draw engine here to be also to help synergize discard the Dark Energy as well. So maybe it will be seen as like a dark assisting the dark decks, because it's actually then playable in those decks as well. I don't think it will work out. I think the dark decks will probably be better off playing a 2-prize engine, but we'll have to wait and see. We then have a Magnezone line. We have Magnemite. I think I read somewhere that this is the first ever Arita drawn Magnemite, which is pretty crazy. This lets you search your discard pile for 3 Metal Energy. Nothing too impactful. Bounce Back basically pushes your opponent's Pokemon back for 2. Again, nothing crazy. And then, first off, look at the art on this. This is absolutely fantastic. I love this. Just the way the whole Pokemon has been lined with this lightning sort of energy looks brilliant. We have Magnezone with 150 HP and the ability Giga Magnet. Once during a turn, look at the top 6 cards of your deck. Choose any number of Metal Energy you find there, attach its energy to your Pokemon, and shuffle the remaining cards back into your deck. So we've seen abilities like this before, and I don't think they've ever been that impactful. I think realistically we have better ways of powering up Metal Pokemon. We have Metal Saucer. We have even Bronzong plus Zacian, which I think is better than trying to get the Stage 2 into play. It's only 6 cards, so you're not able to see, at best, realistically, you have to expect to see, the best case scenario is probably hitting 2 energy here. Because you're going to have to be running 23, 24, 25 energy if you want to be seeing 4 or 5 counts. So that's not really realistic. So you're going to be looking at running sort of 12, 13 energy. And then at that point, I think Giga Magnet, you can, the expected value of Giga Magnet is only going to be 2, maybe 3 in some instances. But a lot of the time it's going to be 2 or maybe even 1. An extra energy attachment here or there is nice, especially if you have a couple of these Magnezones out. But I just think Saucer with Bronzong, being able to heal that way being able to attach energy that way, because you can then move it all off and heal and stuff like that on these big metal Pokemon. Spoilers, I really am excited about Dialga, so that's what I'm thinking right now. I want to play Bronzong and Zacian with Dialga rather than Magnezone. Magnezone is a stage 2, Bronzong is stage 1, and Zacian is a very good tempo attacker, so that kind of works for me over Magnezone, which is unfortunate. I would imagine this will naturally be paired with metal attackers anyway, probably Dialga. But I don't think it will be the way to play the deck when it sort of boils down to how this is built. And then it also has Power Beam for 120. Shieldon, again, evolves from Unidentified Fossil. Goes immune on a coin flip for its first attack, and then just does 100 for 3 on its second. And then Bastiodon has the ability Ancient Stronghold. Each of your Pokemon takes 30 less damage from the attacks of your Pokemon V. From your opponent's Pokemon V. And then it does 180 for 3, and you do 30 to yourself. Ancient Stronghold, again, I just don't think the payoff is worth trying to get a Stage 2. It's harder than a Stage 2 naturally as well, because you have to find fossils. You can't find the regular basic Pokemon. You can't just quick all them out. So it's harder to get out than a regular Stage 2 in a lot of instances. So yeah, I just don't think the payoff is there. Minus 30 is actually a decent amount, to be honest. You can actually make some pretty tanky things with minus 30 plus Big Charm and stuff like that. But realistically, having to play a Stage 2 is already not really worth it. We have a Stage 2 right now that reduces 30 from everything in Aegislash, and that's not seeing play at all, and that's easier to get into play because the basic is a Pokemon rather than a trainer card. So it's easier to find. So yeah, unfortunately Bastiodon is just not quite worth it. And then finally onto Origen Dialga V, my personal favourites. You'll see why momentarily. 220 HP, basic metal type, metal coat, attach up to metal energy from your discard pile to one of your Pokemon. That's pretty interesting. That means you don't have to attach it to this Pokemon. You can attach it to a Dialga on the bench if you think you're going to get knocked out. If you're playing the Bronzong engine, it doesn't matter where you attach these because you can just move them around next turn. So yeah, really like this early game attack to be able to at least be doing something, getting some energy on the board. And then Halt Time does 180 damage. Not terrible, but not great. 4 energy is quite a lot. But Origen Dialga V-Star is where it's at. 280 HP, metal type with the Metal Blast attack. It does 1 for 40 for colorless energy, but it does 40 more for each metal energy attached to this Pokemon. So again, reading that as a 40 times multiplier, but with base 40, it's 40 times multiplier minus 1, so you need 6 energy on this to be one-shotting a V-Star Pokemon. Not great, realistically, that's a lot of energy. You're losing a lot of investment if this gets knocked out. But obviously, because it's a 280 HP Pokemon, you can grab a choice. What am I thinking of? A big charm for this. Make it a bit tankier. Try and live a hit, and then use the Bronzong Cheryl engine to really, lean into this thing's tankiness, which is pretty interesting. In general, you're going to want to get a lot of energy onto this anyway, though, because Chrono Star V-Star power for 5 energy cards does 220 damage, and it reads, take another turn after this one. Anyone who has been a long-running fan of the channel knows me and Joe absolutely love this attack text. It's never been amazing, it's honestly, but we've had so much fun with this, and I actually think this time it might be good. It's on a stage 1, which is obviously worse than, for example, Dialga GX. Bear in mind, I've played Dialga GX at a regional before, by the way. It's on a stage 1, which is obviously a bit slower than a basic Pokemon. But you boast 100 more HP, so you're tankier than old Dialga. We now have ways to manipulate the energy. We had to play that with a stage 2 Brain Dance Magnezone before. Now you have just ways to have the energy spread out on the board and then move them all onto Dialga to attack. You're doing 220 damage, which is a great number because it means that you're one-shotting basically any V Pokemon in the game, especially with the Choice Belt, which is very relevant. Also, it's only 5 energy plus a Choice Belt for Metal Blast, by the way, which is also, it saves energy here and there, which is nice. We have Metal Saucer to be able to attach extra energy for the turn. We have the Origen Dialga's first attack to attach to a benched one to sort of store 2 energy in the early game. So yeah, I may be looking at this through rose-tinted glasses because I absolutely love Dialga GX and I tried to make that card work in so many ways. But honestly, the words take another turn are so powerful. Take another turn essentially means draw an extra card plus 2 extra cards if you're assuming you're taking a V-Star Pokemon prize, which I think you can assume because 220 damage really isn't missing out on a lot of them. So essentially, what this attack reads is draw 3 cards, play an extra supporter, attach an extra energy card, and attack again. That's how you can read take another turn. This isn't conditional, you get to take another turn sort of if you do anything, so you can even just hit into a VMAX. So basically, once you get to 3 prizes, you can just Chrono Star into Metal Blast, and always KO a VMAX as well. So yeah, I'm not going to sit here and say this is going to be the new best deck in format, but I seriously think this is going to be a lot of fun. I really am excited to mess around with Dialga and try and take extra turns. Like I say, I did it a lot with the GX, maybe not overly successfully, but I did it a lot with the GX and really enjoyed it, and I will definitely enjoy doing it again. And I legitimately think this is easier to achieve than having to play a Rain Dance Magnezone that we had to achieve back in the day. Again, like I say, I'm not saying it's going to be the best deck ever, but I am super excited to play Origen Dialga, just to take extra turns here and there. And honestly, again, when you read take an extra turn, like draw 3 cards, play an extra supporter, attach an extra energy, it's pretty huge. Off the back of that, just a couple of other points. If you are playing the Bronzong engine, it means that you can move your energy off and play Cheryl, which can make Origen Dialga even tankier, which is nice. We've seen Cheryl used in a couple of decks here and there. but never to great effect. So yeah, that's really interesting. I think this could be a nice partner, or it could be nice playing a couple of Cheryl in the deck as well. Obviously, this is Fire Week, and we have some great Fire Pokemon right now that just aren't seeing play at the moment. So that will probably lead to an uptick in Fire types. But I think Palkia then keeps them in check really nicely, and Suicune, which again paves the way for Dialga. So yeah, really, really interesting stuff. I'm super excited to play this. I'm super excited to play both Palkia and Dialga. I think they're both very, very strong cards. But yeah, Chronos Star V-Star for 220 damage, taking an extra turn. Oh, it takes me back to the days of Dialga GX and how much I tried to make that work. So yeah, I'm definitely going to be playing around with this card a lot. But yeah, as you can see, I'm very excited. I need to go and head to work, so thanks so much for watching. I've been Jack from Omnipoke. I hope you're excited. Let me know what you think about some of these cards down below. There's some probably unexplored combos. It's very early in the morning for me, so I imagine there's some stuff I've missed. So please let me know down below what your thoughts are. And yeah, other than that, thank you very much for watching. I've been Jack from Omnipoke, and I look forward to seeing you guys in another video soon. Cheers, everyone.